Council for April 20th, 2022 to order. I have a couple of things that we have to cover before we get into the agenda. First and foremost, Mrs. Hicks has asked to join the meeting via remote. She is out of the country with a family medical issue. Is there anyone that objects to her joining this meeting? Hearing none, Ms. Hicks, welcome to the meeting. There also is no public comments tonight, as this is mostly a carryover from the 4/12 meeting titled Discussion by Mayor and Town Council. So the first order is the Budget Resolution Amendment Number 9. Mr. Wingfield?
This budget resolution would be to amend the budget to basically simply transfer money that we have available for fiber. We typically budget some money in our budget for fiber, but we want to, I guess, appropriately charge the fiber for the park to the park project. So this is basically just changing the classification of that money.
Okay, so it's no increase or decrease, it's just a lateral shift.
Correct.
And we do this occasionally. Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the resolution?
I'll make a motion to accept the resolution for amendment number 9.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments, discussions?
Can you guys tell me, is that one about the park again? Is that what you said?
That's correct.
Yeah. It's put fiber optic cable into the park.
Oh, okay, okay. Okay, I don't see a problem with that. Thank you.
Okay. No further discussion, Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Councilwoman Hicks.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hockett.
Aye.
Councilman Jenkins.
Aye.
Councilman Showalter.
Aye.
Councilman Wilson.
Aye.
That's 5-0 and 1 absent. Thank you. Do we have a motion to appropriate the funds from Amendment 9?
I'll make a motion to appropriate the funds for amendment number 9.
Thank you.
I'll second again.
Motion and a second. Any discussions? I assume hearing none, Madam Clerk?
Councilwoman Hicks.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hockett.
Aye.
Councilman Jenkins.
Aye.
Councilman Showalter.
Aye.
Councilman Wilson.
Aye.
Okay, that is 5-0 and 1 absent. Thank you. Next is the COLA of a 5% in targeted increases that was in the packet from the last time. I think it states that the increase for this year is out of funds that have been saved from our wages and salaries over the last 12 months. Is that correct, Ms. Tweedy? That is a nod of correct. Okay. And the targeted increases is there's some people that are getting a little bit more. Is that due to that compression, Delisha? Is that what we're looking at? Okay. So do you all see what she's getting at on it? Do you understand all that? Okay.
Could you just go over it one more time?
Yes, so I did the 5% calculations on all the employees, and then some of those compared to the other localities, they are still below the market average for some of the other localities. There was a list of those positions. There were a total of 45 positions, but 21 of those were vacant. Does that answer your question, or do you want to go into more detail?
That's fine. We're doing like a cost adjustment for certain jobs.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the COLA 5% targeted increases.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussions?
Yeah, I kind of have several questions about this. I think I watched the meeting from the last time and everything else, and it seemed like we were gonna leave this, items obviously being discussed on Tuesday meeting. Why was there a reason, what was the reason behind it, to move it just like to several days before we had that meeting, we had to call in this people work session to that?
That was a decision that 3 council members approached me at after the meeting. 1 approached and 2 agreed that we needed to go ahead and work on this at this point in time, simply because it has some things to do that you'll talk later about, advertising budgets and things like this. But this is something that we also need to get our finance department and HR department working on these increases, because there's quite a few adjustments. When you figure every employee in town is affected and has to be, their wages, their hourly rates have to be adjusted on a pretty short leash.
I'll just point out, I was requested.
Yeah, so,
I was requested by the mayor and Councilwoman Hicks to put the targeted increases on the last agenda.
oh yeah, well, obviously, yeah, I want those increases for like public works and the aquatics center people right away, obviously, since we're having a hard time recruiting people. But I guess I have several questions about this.
Well, Ms. Hicks, let me make a statement to you very quickly. We cannot do this just by 2 departments. If we're going to do this, it has to be done town-wide, in all fairness to all of our employees.
I understand that, but the reason why we were doing it so fast, I'm just trying to find out what and who, and what took place when. But I guess one of the questions I have is, we have some people that we have a contract with them. It seems like, every year they become reappointed by council. One of those people happens to be Randy Winfield. Another one is Mark Stephen and Valerie Sweetie. How come they become part of this COLA amount of money that we give? Why isn't it the same? Why isn't it treated the same way that we treat persons? Even though he doesn't work, obviously he works for the town, but he doesn't necessarily work for the town. He's on the contract.
They are treated they are treated exactly like any other full-time employee of the town. They're appointed by us, but their salaries are paid and salaries are set by the town manager. So they are no different than the average public works guy or a lifeguard at the aquatic center.
Yeah, but I'm just asking, why isn't it that we handle their raises during that time? Why is it that we just gave Randy a raise the other day, not too long ago, I remember. And then right now, if we do this COLA, isn't it true that he will also get another raise?
That is true. And the only salaries in the town of Christiansburg that we as a council set are those of the town manager.
I'll just point out, I would not receive a merit increase.
Right.
Yes.
But you get COLA and not the merit. We would have to, after a year's time, we would have to vote at the end of December, early January, we would have to vote on his annual salary based on a full year of council working with him.
Okay, so am I correct to say that he has gotten like a raise of over $20,000 within the last 4 years and 4 months? That's correct? If he gets his COLA?
I don't know. Is that true?
I don't think it's that much, no.
It's not that much.
I actually emailed you, I guess, last week of the increases I've gotten.
Yeah. So we have.
When I was looking at it, with this increase, it will be about $20,000.
Not on this COLA. It would not be, no ma'am.
So why is it that, okay, so we also allocated like $156,000, I think, back in 2020. How was the money distributed for CWP? How was the money allocated? Is that part of the merit things that we did as well?
I'm not sure I follow. You're saying $156,000 for, was that last year's COLA?
For raises increases. Yeah, no, that was a different one. It was just for CWP. How was that distributed? Because that was a merit, right? Or was that six?
I have no earthly clue, Joanna, what you're asking us about. Val, you got any idea?
What's TWC?
See, I don't know.
CWP? What
What-
acronym?
It was a merit? Okay. And then, what about if we do the COLA increases, and what about can we somehow work on the merit bonuses and use that for retention and recruitment right now at the moment? Because if I'm getting this correctly, it will be like, what is it? A 5% and a 3%, right? It will be pretty much an increase of 8%, right?
She's a little ahead.
Yeah. Well, we're looking at two different things. First and foremost, we are not talking about the 2% merit increase in this discussion. That comes in the general budget discussion that we will have hopefully when you're back in town. So what we're looking for now is the approval of the 5% COLA and the adjustment of wages of those people that were depicted in your handout from last week. Okay. So
This is only for 45 individuals, right?
the
45 positions.
and not all of them are open.
Right.
Okay. All right. So do I have a motion?
I made the motion.
Tim already
Oh,
put
you
one
did?
on there.
All right, very good. We're in
Casey
discussion.
seconded it.
Anyone else?
I have a question. So, are we looking at the COLA for all the town employees right now, plus those 45 positions, an increase for the 45 positions? We're looking at both of those things, or only the 45 positions?
No, we're looking at COLA and all, and the other is to bring their rates up to,
Okay, so I was a little confused too. I thought this was just for those targeted budgets, not for all the employees.
I was requested
Because don't we
by,
usually do that in with the main budget?
that's correct. I was requested by the mayor and Councilwoman Hicks to put the targeted increases on the last agenda. Through discussions with Val and Human Resources, that there's a lot of work that goes involved into calculations and data entry for all the employees. And we felt if we were going to do the increases, it would be easier for them to do the work basically at one time rather than twice, because it's probably a week or so worth of work for them. So essentially, it's while it would be 2 months quicker, it would save them work.
so the 5% COLA will be, the results of the 5% COLA will be reflected in the new budget.
Correct.
But what we're doing now through the end of the budget, the fiscal year, current year, is that we are paying that 5% out of the monies that had been saved in unused salaries and wages over the last year.
Is there any particular impact on the next budget cycle if we pass this 5% now? What's the reason, I guess, to pass the 5% a little bit early?
Other than to save work for, like I say, the town departments, that's the reason we basically are recommending handling it that way. If council wants to handle it differently, that's at your discretion though.
So you're recommending doing the 5% now?
Yes.
And then doing the merit increases
In
after
the
the new
fall.
budget?
Yeah, that's
Yes,
in the new
we
budget.
typically do the evals in the fall and basically do the allocation usually about October, November is usually when we do the merit allocation.
Okay, so you're asking us to approve this 5% COLA across the board. Staff would like us to do that. And then bring these 45 positions up to where they need to be, both that exist and that are going to be posted, so their starting salary is higher. And then after the new budget cycle, put in that 2%.
Correct.
Okay.
And not everyone will get an increase.
Correct. If you're a new hire or probationary employee, you wouldn't be eligible. Also, if you don't receive a satisfactory job review, you wouldn't be eligible.
Other than the work, which seems to have been no issue for the decade I've served on council so far, I don't see any reason in doing this right now.
Like I say, that's at council's discretion.
It's sort of like we're just separating this loan earlier to get it over with, but it's something that's always been in with our main budget and has always been handled prior to, even when we pass it, prior to the new fiscal year.
Like I say, that's at council discretion, simply basically trying to save a little bit of work for town staff.
Well, and the fact that we can increase those salaries earlier and not cost us any money in this year's budget. It's money we've already saved, and it will also put these positions up to a little bit higher income, and kind of a reward for the last 2 years that they have been working their tails off with the current COVID restrictions and everything else. And when you don't have, when you're 30 people short in public works, these guys are working quite a bit, so it's kind of a double reward.
Right, and we did a huge reward in December as a one-time bonus of $2,500 for employees, $3,500.
That came out of those funds.
But still, we did it. Well, not the employee ones, not the first responders. We were able to use the stimulus, but the budget actually, our general funds actually funded the $2,500 for all employees.
But I think the fact that it was a situation that we felt, and we were not alone as far as what the surrounding municipalities did. They all funded people not covered by the ARPA money or whatever that money, RESPA money. I've lost all the acronyms, I don't know, but I mean, they've all of the town staffs, municipal and county, got an advantage for this.
I disagree as far as not being able to give some people some raises right now. I think when I see the county and everything now doing what they are doing right now as far as giving some increases to get more lifeguards and things like that, I didn't see them having a problem doing that before their budget meeting, before. So why is it that we cannot do some departments right now that really need the help trying to get more people and recruit more people? Because obviously we don't even have to make an amendment to be able to use this additional money that we have in the budget. Because we won't have the workforce right now.
I would not be in support of picking
I think it would be really good for us to at least give an increase to the people that we really need today.
Yeah, I would not be in support of us, Johanna.
Johanna,
You shouldn't get $14 an hour.
you have a couple of comments that people wanted to make to you, Johanna. Would you mind taking a listen?
Hey, John, sorry, I know it's hard virtual. I would not be in support of us splitting up. I wouldn't want to hand pick and choose how inflation and the cost of living is affecting all the people regardless of what they're making. I think if we're going to do that, we need to do it across the board. I wouldn't want to select, I don't want to choose who is more in need of these cost of living raises. And I also think it asks our staff to do this then a third time. I mean, another round of these increases, and I would rather not do that.
I think, Tim, you have a comment?
Yeah, and
I don't think we're in disagreement with that, Tanya, at all. I think even with what Joe Walker said a minute ago, I think that's right on the point that we're trying to.
hey, so Johanna.
Raises, but we try to do these call-out raises every year.
I think Tim has a comment for you, Johanna.
This is going to be on the budget for sure.
Would you let Tim get a word in, please?
Hey, so I'm not too far off from Councilwoman Hockett in that I'm not for cherry picking who gets a COLA and who doesn't. And I can tell you that the reason I'm in support of this now, and you know that I'm not a fan of giving away our money, but we have the money, for one. Gas prices are skyrocketing, food prices are skyrocketing, and if we can do something because we have the money to help our employees and staff out right now, Henry, I understand your position of but again, I know the struggle to put gas in a vehicle, and we got some people, if you look at their pay up here, that are at the bottom end of the pay scale, that an extra couple bucks an hour will help them get back and forth to work. So I don't know what we're arguing over, cherry picking who gets money or not. If we have the money left over, and it's not going to kill us financially as a town, I think the state of our economy at the moment says, I can tell you what my vote is. before we get to it.
Let me just add, I mean, if you pick and choose, you're exacerbating a problem we already have, you know, with the holes and where we have them. And I mean, I think you said that this is identified, this was already under the curve, right, compared to other localities. That's a problem. Don't wait to fix the problem. So, you know, if you can do that now, it's a problem, identify it as a problem. If you can fix it now, make it effective immediately. There's no reason why we shouldn't here, you know, and keep that competitiveness, and not exacerbate a problem and make it worse.
Can I ask, you know, Tim, for you and Casey, if you would separate the COLA 5% and the targeted increases? Could you retract your motions and then we do two separate?
Yeah, I'm not against it.
Because I think we're talking about two separate things, correct?
No,
We are not.
they're separate, though,
Why?
because we applied the 5% first before we looked at, okay, given the 5% increase, how many are still below the market wage? So we already added the 5% on, and then we said, okay, these people are still below, we're gonna have to target increase that group of people. And that was 45 people, even after the 5% COLA.
Right.
So we don't really have a calculation that says, here's the 45 people.
So will we separate, if we were to ask you to separate that, you'd be bumping them up where they need to be, and then they get 5% on top of that when we did the, I mean, it would be,
No, it just kind of messes how we came up with the whole plan.
okay, I understand.
And then you would have the compression issue, because you'd only be then bumping those 45 people, or it would probably be more than 45 people if you don't apply the 5%. It's not just 45 people, it's what we need.
It would be closer to 100.
The one concern that I have, it's a small concern, but I just don't want us in all the future budget years to be chasing the COLA ahead of the budget cycle, where I know now we're doing that, it's necessary, and we're looking at a lot of different factors, but next year, what will the factors be, and are we gonna keep applying that COLA where we haven't budgeted for it, you know, again and again? And I just, that's my only concern, is just
We never
chasing that
know from
COLA.
year to year what the recommended COLA's gonna be. It's been as low as 1%. 5, I think's the highest I've seen it, but, and that kind of came out of the state, not that they set our policies for us. So anyway,
Well,
go ahead, Henry.
With this, I mean, it's one,
Right?
there's one big item
I
where,
don't know when you guys are talking and stuff, and so I don't need to cut you off. I cannot see you guys' faces, so please don't think that I'm cutting you guys off when I'm trying to speak, because I'm not trying to do that at all. I just cannot see your faces right now.
okay. Can you hear us when we speak?
I can hear you when you speak, but
Okay.
I cannot see when someone is gonna be taking the turn. So if I speak and I don't try to cut, I'm not trying to cut anybody off, anything, you know, by any means. So
I wouldn't change the motion on the table personally.
Okay.
I would as is. That's what I supported. and
Yeah, after
it's-
listening to Val's comment, I stay with my motion.
right. I'd like to know a little bit more, because I think the merit goes along with the COLA. We're talking about increases, and you're talking about doing a 5%
Yeah.
across the board right now, and then all of a sudden in a month, we're going to do another, it's proposed to do another 2% merit increase, which, as I found out, some employees will get 3%. So you're talking about a total increased compensation for some employees of 7 or 8%
Yeah.
with the combined.
But that's not done
Merit
until,
isn't based on the employee's current salary, it's based on, or Alicia can probably explain that a little better. How the merit is.
Well, it's awarded based on the spreadsheet, but it is based on performance of the employee and the salary during that time period.
So it's all based on performance,
It is.
right?
yeah,
So basically, we could do like we have in years past and reduce the COLA, but increase the merit to equal at 5%, right? And
Some employees would not be eligible for the merit.
new employees, right? New employees. But
okay.
they would still get a COLA. If we reduce the COLA at 2%, and let's say we did a 2% merit, the new employees would still get the 2% COLA, correct? They would not be able to be eligible for the 2 to 3%. If we vote for a 2% merit, they wouldn't be eligible for the merit. But then the employees that do deserve, based on their performance review, could have a 5% increase overall if we did something like that, correct? And it would be all based on performance with the town.
I am going to call for a vote. Ms. Hicks, do you have another comment before we go? But I am going to call for a vote. Hearing no.
I think, so I am still so confused. I couldn't hear, are you guys wanting to go down on the 5% call-up right now? Is that what you're trying to do?
That's correct.
And then leave the merit for later on?
That's,
And then, so what I heard from Showalter was that yes, this is every year, but we should wait until later. I think Tanya wanted to do it right now. Team wanted to do it right now. I think there is like a motion that everybody wants to do it right now. And I completely agree as far as like we need to make a change today. But then that means that for the rest of the year, we are not going to be giving any more raises, correct?
other than the 2%, other than the 2% merit, if it's voted in with the next budget, and certain employees that qualify would be eligible for that. But no, I don't know. I think that we had a terrible year salary-wise as far as with inflation and gas prices, and we did make some adjustments, and I think it was fair that we made those adjustments. This is a chance to help our employees a little bit more, and we need to do as much as we can to keep our employees satisfied and possibly to recruit more employees. So with that, I'm going to go ahead.
My biggest concern right now is like even the recruitment for lifeguards and public work. So if we do this 5% COLA, that's still not going to give us more employees. It's actually going to help us keep the people that we have. I completely agree with that. But as far as like the 15% thing or whatever, when I saw the information from Randy the other day, I don't remember seeing the answer that where he said that nobody will be making less than $50 an hour for part-time employees. Does that apply also for our full-time employees, correct?
Correct. The targeted increases and the 5% would move all full-time and part-time employees to $15 an hour minimum. So,
for example, somebody that is working for public work that was making $14 an hour, will raise them. We'll give them a $15 plus 5% increase, right?
Well, not necessarily. It might be a combination of the two to get to the 15%, because as they stated, they actually did the 5% and then looked at the targeted increases.
I think the bottom line
Is there any way that we can somehow work it out where we start at 15 and then we give that increase above that instead of starting at 14 or whatever amount is, if anybody else is making under $50 an hour right now?
Ms. Hicks, with this movement tonight, as Randy explained, all of our full-time and part-time workers will be paid $15 an hour.
So, okay, so everybody will be making above 15, doesn't matter if it's part-time or full-time.
That's
Got it.
correct.
Thank you.
All right, Madam Clerk.
Perfect. Okay, I don't have no.
All right, we're gonna call for the vote, so let us get a word in here.
Councilwoman Hicks.
Ms. Hicks,
Aye.
thank you.
Councilwoman Hockett.
Aye.
Councilman Jenkins.
Aye.
Councilman Showalter.
Nay.
Councilman Wilson.
Aye.
Okay, so that is 3, 1, and 1, is that correct? No, 4, 1, and 1.
Yeah.
Okay, very good, that passes. Thank you very much. Our next is I threw this in is there a brief, and I said it that way, a brief discussion about the 2023 budget. I know that I had requested council members to send questions to Mrs. Tweedy, and which would give her time to work on those things. And I think Val, correct me if I'm wrong, but it has worked fairly well for you to be able to do that.
I really have only gotten some questions from Ms.
Mr. Bishop, yeah, but having the advance to be able to answer those has been very helpful. Okay.
I think Casey had sent some, Councilman Jenkins had sent a few too. Didn't you send a budget question or two?
That was about the agency support.
Yes.
That was a,
Yes.
she,
Okay.
Val answered that, yeah.
I had a verbal one. I didn't send an email. I just want to see on the merit how some employee, when we vote for a 2% increase, how some employees get 3.
That's correct. Basically, the 2% merit is a merit pool. So a top performer would get potentially more than 3%. But we actually set the target in the program that we have to do the distribution as 3.5% for top performers. A lower performer would get under 2% potentially. Let's say you have a kind of a bare minimum. Basically, you'd have to have a score of 3.0 or above to be eligible. So if you're on the lower end of that, you might get under 2%. But if you're the higher end of the scale, you might get up to potentially 3.5%.
Okay. If you could break it down in an email, give me an example on one that's, did you say one's gone out?
He answered the question.
I did send an email this afternoon, I guess responding to Ms. Hicks about that. But that's essentially the way it works is, like I say, it's a 2% merit pool based on our total salaries. That is then distributed based on the evaluation scores that people are given.
So your goal is to use the entire 2%?
Correct. We use the entire 2% pool, but it is not distributed as an even 2%. It's distributed based on what the evaluation scores are.
Right, but for instance, if we reserve 2% out of the whole pool, you use the full 2%, correct?
Correct.
Right, it's not as if some comes back when somebody's reached a 2% max, correct?
Correct.
All
If I'll give you an example though, if an employee were, let's say they are a long-term employee and they happen to be at the top of their pay scale, they wouldn't get an additional increase. They'd essentially get a bonus, and their pay scale wouldn't move. The COLAs move pay scales, and the merit does not move pay scales.
Okay.
Okay. Very good. Any other quick budget questions? We're going to we'll set a public hearing soon to discuss the budget, and I would anticipate in between the public hearing for the budget and our council action on the budget that we will most likely have another work session on the budget with questions. So I will reiterate, if you have any questions or comments or concerns, or I'm not sure about what this dollar figure means or what we're doing with it, please get it out to Val and or Randy, or so we can get an answer back to you, and we will reply to everybody. I believe you reply to everybody with those questions.
Right.
Okay. Very good.
One comment on
All right. So anything else we want to discuss briefly on the budget? Okay. We need to post a current draft of fiscal year 2023 budget and proposed water increase for public hearings to be held May 10th, 2022.
Just want to clarify, we won't be able to advertise the water increases for a May 10th public hearing. We'd have to actually set that for a May 24th public hearing.
Okay.
But the budget public hearing can still be May 10th. And you could still vote on both items May 24th.
Randy,
if it's acceptable.
If we don't increase the water for this year, just leave it the same, as we still have to advertise it?
No, you wouldn't.
What would that cost us? How much?
$130,000.
Not to increase it? Okay. Thoughts?
Where did the money go from Go ahead. Where did the money go that we made additional for the increase? We have been increasing the water rate for the last year. So we started at $6. Now we're going to, what is it, $10 for the 1,000 gallons? Where's
11.
that additional money going into the water?
That goes to support,
God
God damn it. That goes to support your public works people to fix the water lines and the sewer lines that break. That's where that money comes from, to fund that portion of their business.
That money goes strictly into the enterprise fund.
Yeah.
But it's also based on the water authority increase from years
It
ago.
is.
Where
That
we
and
tiered it out.
Increased
didn't
cost
do it all
maintenance of
upfront.
our own system
Right,
too.
it does all of it, but the primary, when we did that study years ago, the primary increases, which we've delayed the past couple of years due to the epidemic, but that was mainly to suffice the water authority's $50 million, $30 million project to improve the.
It's definitely in the tens of millions. I don't want to
I
quote
think it's
me.
30 million. I want to say 50,
And I think it
but-
might even be a little more than that now.
But that was so it could continue to be a enterprise fund, meaning a break even to where the general fund wouldn't have to subsidize it, like we
Correct.
have done years and years in the past.
And we have had 1 year, I think, in the past that last year before, we did not increase the water rate. Is that correct?
We
It's
skipped.
the year before last.
Year before last.
Last year we did increase it. The year before last we did.
Because we had scheduled it for basically $1 a year over the next 7 years, 5 years, whatever.
I think it was 5.
Yeah, I think that's what the whole thing was. So, okay.
Well, this is different. I'm gonna make a motion that we leave them the same as this year, based on everything I've heard around this table for giving raises this year for our employees. People are having a tough time, and during the epidemic, we skipped it, and I think the right thing to do for our citizens is to skip the water increase this year too. So I'll make that in the form of a motion.
I second that.
Have a motion
Can
and
I
a,
hear that, Ms. Showalter, do you say that you want to not have a raise this year, correct?
Correct.
I second that.
well, Mr. Wilson seconded it, but thank you. We'll put you down as a distant third. Okay,
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're-
Second person.
you're okay. You're good. So, we have a motion and a second to leave the water rates as they are. Any discussion around the table?
Is that, so we're trying to get even with what the water authority is charging us for providing the water?
That and to cover our own cost of our own system maintenance too. The Water Authority is scheduling increases, and we had a study done by Draper Aiden, and basically they had, I guess, a few options for us. One, a few years ago, was kind of to pull the Band-Aid off and do all the increases at once. That wasn't very palatable. I think we would have gotten a lot of pushback from it.
We're
When
going to
we
go
mentioned
about
the pos-
$6 or
when we-
$7.
Yeah, when we mentioned the possibility, there was a lot of pushback on it. So basically, we came up with the idea of trying to schedule out the increases over several years. But like I say, it does go towards the Water Authority increases for our water consumption. Also, it goes towards, like I say, maintenance of our own systems. We have our own lines. Basically, we get our water from master meter locations from the Water Authority, but from that point on, the system's ours. So the water tanks in town are ours, the lines, pump stations, generators, things like that.
So does this decrease the amount of money that we have to put towards infrastructure by you said about $130,000?
It would.
And is this increase just for the first 1,000 gallons? So every house $1 more, but nothing after the first 1,000?
It's every 1,000. So the first is
This increase is on the
First 1,000,
okay.
$1 per household, basically,
Yes.
getting to
Every
1,000.
household, you're talking about $12
So I guess the common thought on this thing is, could it decrease what we have to put into the maintenance and covering the line? Theoretically, it could. That's kind of our decision, is if we have a major issue, are we going to fund it out of the general fund? So we're not going to I don't think we're going to let sewer lines spew and water lines spew because we don't have any money in the budget. Is that right, Jim?
You're correct.
That's correct, okay,
So
so.
where will that money come from?
General fund.
General
Okay.
fund.
So general fund, we'll just,
Reserves, whatever.
Which are
we'll pull that,
reserves.
something comes up and it's not being paid for by this water increase, we'll pull it from those other things. There's not a project that's gonna have to be paused in order to take care of.
I don't think we'd have to pause any projects. We have historically subsidized water and sewer to some degree through projects through the years too. I think some years it's probably more even, but some years we probably subsidize it a little more.
But not nearly as much as we have in the past, because at one point in time, Randy, we were subsidized that thing about $1 million a year. So if we can get it down and we're not subsidizing it as much, even at 130, that's a win. Is that a valid statement, Val?
I think we have budgeted to subsidize some projects over the last 5 or so years, but when we got to the end of the year, because the project didn't complete or whatever, we didn't have to provide a subsidy to it, and by the following year, we had enough funds to be able to fund the rest of the project. We really haven't had to subsidize the enterprise fund. We've used its ongoing reserve and planning to be able to not have to subsidize it. I think this year we're kind of right on the edge. Losing the 130 in revenue might cause us to have to subsidize it from the general fund a small amount because we were running pretty close on the fund balance for the projection. But it might just kind of wash, when I go through and rework the numbers again, it will be all right.
Understood. Is there a long-term impact of skipping? So we skipped 1 year. If we skip again this year, is there a long-term impact where we're going to need to catch up and people are going to see a quick increase or large increase?
Essentially looking at $130,000 per year. Next year it might be a little bit more than that. So, 260, 270,000 next year potentially if you didn't do the increase.
Okay. And then my last question, I'm sorry, this is a bunch of questions.
You're good.
Last question is, why, for those who voted last year to approve it, or maybe they remember the reasoning why, what was the reason we skipped it 1 year, but then we approved it last year, and it was still the pandemic? What was the reasoning for approving it last year?
I think 2 years ago, I think we were obviously right in the throes of the pandemic. Businesses were closed. I think, people were definitely hurting for, there was a lot of unemployment due to the pandemic. I think last year the thought was that we were starting to come out of the pandemic. Restaurants were open back up. And just the fact that kind of the longer you put it off, the bigger the hole gets.
Right.
And I think we also, there for was it an 8-month period, Val, that we did not, I don't say we didn't require the water bills to be paid, but people could take a break from it, is that correct? Some paid, as always, but
That was actually a mandate.
the mandate,
Yeah, that
We
was.
got the utility relief fund, and that was about $70,000 in federal dollars that we were able to use to help people pay past due water bills. And as a part of that, council also said, well, those funds can only be used for water, sewer charges, no stormwater, no finance charges, no constitutional charges. So at that first go round, council put another 70,000 in, kind of match it, take care of all of the other charges on people's accounts. So we were able to clear up a lot of really old accounts that had issues that they had to sign a statement saying due to COVID that they couldn't pay, and they couldn't find a job or whatever. And then as a part of that program, it also required us to enter into utility payment plans. So when people got behind, we were then mandated to work with them and come up with payment plans not to exceed 20 months.
That was more than water though, right? That was more than the water. That was sewer and
well, that's all in one bill,
home,
yeah.
Yeah.
right?
I remember you sent an email out recently. It seems like that's kind of is that more stable? You're seeing people are able to pay, or it's okay. Gotcha.
We're still redoing payment plans
So is this with the people that we use the stimulus money to bring their
Some of them.
accounts current in hard
Are
times?
still struggling.
Yeah.
And we have a few frequent flyers within that, but anyway. Okay, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yes, that
No, that's fine.
there's my 100,000 questions. So this is, just to recap, $1 per month, an increase of $1 per month.
First
That
thousand,
and then nothing past the first 1,000 is what's proposed, right?
right.
No increase for anything over the $1,000.
Right, and then it's just their regular.
But the motion
Their
is
regular
to
usage
not
rate.
increase the $1. Is that correct, Tim? And
Mhm.
Yep.
to just leave the rates as they are for this coming budget year? That's my understanding. Is that yours? Joanne, is that your understanding?
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
Does knowing that, did you all vote knowing it was just the $1 per month?
Yeah, I don't.
I wouldn't have, if it was less than that, I would have supported not to do an increase.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Hearing no other comments or questions, we're voting to, we're not going to advertise a water increase. We're not going to increase the water rates. So we can go ahead with our public advertisement of the budget.
Yes, but I probably should redo the draft
Okay,
to not have that water increase
sure.
in it.
Okay. Okay.
So it would be basically the draft that you all have, but we would take that water increase out.
Val, if I'm not mistaken, we can advertise a budget. We cannot exceed that advertisement, but we could certainly decrease that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So that would be basically a decrease of what we advertise. Okay.
But we have to approve those rates.
Water rate.
Right. So leaving it in the budget, we would have to purposely go in to vote for the budget, but remove those increases, even though we're voting for
I
it
think
right
the
here, right?
presentation she's gonna have, Mr. Showalter, is it's going, the budget that
What you
that we vote
advertise,
on will be minus the, it's some $130,000.
right, so you're going to advertise the new budget after we vote whether or not to decrease this. My understanding was Mike said you could go with the budget we're currently looking at with the increase, and I think that's sort of not a great way to do that when you're advertising a budget to the public and you have to purposely vote on the water increase over individually outside of it.
If you all vote to not do that increase, then I think we should do a new draft with that out of there.
Yes.
And advertise that draft, because I think it would be extremely misleading to say, this is the draft that we're advertising and talking about,
Right.
when you've already said no.
No intention. of
Okay.
that.
That's fine.
Well,
Plus,
taking
it would
official-
also
Does
be
that
like
affect
we
when
had
we
to
can
have a public
advertise?
hearing on it.
Does that affect when we can advertise a public hearing on this, on the budget? Is it 2 weeks?
It would be the 10th.
I think I can get it done.
Okay.
The big deal is my getting the draft done, to make the summary, to post on the web and to post in the paper.
Well, let's decide tonight, right now, what we're gonna
I
do.
think we could probably get it done and we could post in the department and still have the public hearing on the,
For the budget.
for the budget.
Okay. That good with you all?
'Cause
Madam?
The budget only takes a 7-day vote.
Right, okay,
And then you can't vote on it for 7 days.
okay. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Councilwoman Hicks,
All right, so this one is voting on the budget stuff, right?
What we're voting on right now is to not increase the water rate by the dollar
Okay, increase
proposed.
on the water, we're still on that one, okay, yeah, I am that,
Okay.
Councilwoman Hockett,
Aye.
yes.
Councilman Jenkins,
Aye.
Councilman Showalter,
Aye.
Councilman Wilson.
Aye.
All right, that's 5-0 and 1. That has it. That is all that I have scheduled. Is there anything else, Randy?
Just want to clarify, you are good with us advertising the budget minus the $1 increase for the
That's
water?
kind of what we said, right? Okay,
Yeah, we can always come down, right? Just can't go up.
that's right. That's exactly right. Okay, I think that's, unless there's something else to come before council, I'd like to thank our department heads and managers for being here. Val, at least all of you. It's been very helpful to have you here. So with that, we are adjourned.